I was 16, a counselor in training at Camp Whispering Pines in upstate New York, the summer of '09. Every night at exactly 2:13 a.m., a faint yellow light flickered on in the old abandoned cabin across Blackwood Lake. It had been boarded up since little Tommy Hargrove vanished there in 1987, his screams supposedly echoing until dawn. The older counselors whispered he'd slipped through the floorboards into some hidden underground pit, but no one ever found any proof. The place stayed locked up tight, its power cut long ago. That first night I jolted awake to my bunkmate's gasp. I saw it glowing like a single evil eye through the trees. By the third night, my curiosity was gnawing at me harder than the mosquitoes. The head counselor, a guy named Rick, warned us, "Stay away. It's just swamp gas or some local kids pranking." But I couldn't sleep. I'd hear faint splashes from the dock, like someone was testing the water, dipping a toe in. On the fifth night, during a stormy roll call, I decided I'd had enough. I grabbed a flashlight, snuck down to the shore, stole a rowboat, and paddled across. The waves slapped cold against my shins, and the air was thick with the smell of pine and rot. The cabin loomed ahead, its door ajar despite the heavy chains we'd all checked that morning. Wet footprints trailed up the steps, small like a child's, leading right inside. Whispers slithered from the cracks in the wood. They weren't words at first, just a sound, but then it formed my name over and over, pulling me closer. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I pushed the door. It creaked open to reveal dust-choked rooms. I shined my flashlight on the floorboards, splintered right where Tommy had supposedly fallen. But there was no pit, just a wooden table piled high with faded Polaroids. They were pictures of kids from our camp from this summer. Kids laughing by the fire, swimming, even pictures of me leading the canoe races. I flipped through them, my hand shaking. The last one? It was a picture of me standing frozen in that very doorway, the flashlight beam cutting across my terrified face. The time stamp printed at the bottom read 2:13 a.m. Right now, the light behind me, the one in the cabin, snapped off. The whispers turned to laughter. I ran. I scrambled for the boat, capsizing it halfway back across the lake. I swam blind as I felt things' cold hands brushing my ankles from below. I made it to shore at dawn, soaked and shivering, but sane. But ever since that night, wherever I go, that light finds me. It shows up in mirrors and the reflections on my phone screen, always there, always one step behind. Now a different camp, a different summer. I was head counselor at Camp Evergreen in the Missouri Ozarks, summer of 2015. We had 80 kids, a full house. The roster was triple-checked every night at lights out. Roll call was our routine, names shouted into the dusk, flashlights sweeping over faces gathered by the flagpole. But on the second night, as thunder rumbled in the distance, there she was, one extra girl at the shadowed end of the line. She had pale skin and stringy black hair that hung over hollow eyes. Her camp t-shirt was way too big, and it was dripping, like she'd just waded out of the creek. No name on any of our lists matched her. The other kids swore she hadn't been at breakfast, or any of the day's activities. Lost hiker's kid, maybe, I muttered to my junior counselor, and we assigned her to cabin 7, hoping her parents would turn up. She never spoke a word, just stared through everyone during roll call. By morning, she was gone. The nights started to blur together. Every roll call, that extra shadow was there at the end of the line. We'd see her reflection rippling in the lake long after everyone else had walked away. We took group photos, and when they were developed, we'd see her pale face squeezed between the real campers, her eyes wide and unblinking. Then the kids started getting sick. Fevers, nightmares. They'd wake up crying about the girl who waits. We took a photo at the talent show. In it, you could see her hand resting on little Maxie's shoulder. Except Maxie vanished that dawn. His bunk was empty, his backpack left by the water's edge. We searched the trails we called his parents. We told ourselves he was a runaway. But I knew better. I'd catch her grin in the reflection of the mess hall windows, right behind me. I'd see her peeking from behind the trees and Polaroids from the arts and crafts session. On the sixth night, a massive storm hit. The evacuation sirens wailed as we loaded screaming kids onto buses in sheets of rain. No extras were accounted for. The camp was cleared. A week later, Maxie's parents got a single sunburned shoe that was found on the lake bed. No body was ever recovered. I drove home to St. Louis at dawn, bone-tired and haunted. I crashed in my apartment, falling into a dead sleep. I woke to the sound of rain tapping on my window and that old familiar camp whistle in my ears. Footsteps squished down my hallway. I opened my bedroom door, and there she stood at the foot of my bed, soaked t-shirt clinging to her, Maxie's grin on her face. She whispered my roster number. She'd taken his spot, and now she's taking mine. Every mirror I look into shows two of me. One is always a step behind. We sit in a tight circle at Camp Shadow Lake, deep in the Oregon woods, the flames of the campfire spitting under a starless sky. Old Counselor Mike, his face scarred from some forgotten accident, leans in close. "Rule 1, he says, his voice a low gravel. "After midnight, if the camp whistle blows, you clamp your hands over your ears, never answer, and you never ever peek." He pauses, letting the silence hang. "Last guy who did Josh, back in '98, they found him at dawn, knee-deep in the lake, his eyes rolled white. He was just whistling non-stop until they dragged him out foaming at the mouth." Some of the kids laugh nervously. I roll my eyes. I was new, just 19, and I figured it was just hazing, a story to scare the new counselors. Mike just stares at me. "It's not the wind," he insists. "It's them, the things in the trees. They steal your voice first." The fire pops, sending a shower of sparks into the dark. We all scatter back to our cabins as thunder begins to growl in the distance. Rain hammers the roof of Cabin 5 at 1:47 a.m. The wind claws at the branches outside like long, bony fingers. I lie rigid in my bunk, listening to the kids snoring below me when it starts. A sharp, shrill whistle, slicing right through the gale. It sounds distant, maybe coming from the docks. My heart kicks into overdrive. I remember Mike's rule, but I have to look. I peek through the grimy window pane. Nothing but swaying pines. The whistle shrieks again, closer this time, seeming to circle Cabin 3. I hear wet boots thudding up the steps, and then silence. Some of the girls in the cabin whimper, waking up. I hiss at them to shut up. The whistle loops around to Cabin 5 now, right outside our door. It's piercing, a human-perfect sound, and it pauses, as if it's listening. Then I hear a creak. The doorknob begins to rattle, slowly. I jam my palms to my ears, my breath fogging the glass. I can only see shadows outside, shadows that stretch too long and move in ways they shouldn't. The sound fades, moving on to Cabin 7, and then back again, like it's hunting. The storm peaks. The whistle inches right outside my window, so close it feels like the lips making the sound are nearly brushing the pane. I squeeze my eyes shut, humming to myself, trying to drown it out. Then I freeze. The sound doesn't stop. It's inside me now, vibrating in my ribs, puffing out from my own clamped mouth, unbidden. My hands drop. The mirror across the room fogs with my breath. My own lips purse, and a whistle shreds the air coming from me. Outside, silhouettes gather by the window. They're grinning, their mouths empty, black voids. They've been here all along, and now you hear it too, don't you? Lights out? Not for us, not anymore. Like this if the extra camper watched you back from the screen and subscribed for the next roll call.